And back once again for another episode of Short and Sweet, where we celebrate all things food and drink in and around Cape Ann. I am Corey Kukru, along with my co-host Heather Atwood. Welcome back, Heather.
Thank you, Corey.
We
nice
ride
to see
again.
You.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that we wanted to do when we started this podcast was talk to local chefs, local bakers, people involved in farms here. But a big thing we wanted to do was emphasize home cooks.
Exactly. There's so many great ones on Cape Ann,
Yeah.
and I mean great. They're cooking some pretty amazing things.
Yeah, and we're being joined by one of them today. I can't believe I haven't met her before. Peg Leeco, how are you?
Hi, Corey.
Thanks for joining
it's
us.
great to finally meet you
I
as
know.
well. I'm excited to be here today with you two, especially with Heather, a good
I
friend.
have to. Yeah, we're good, very good friends. But I have to talk about the first time I ever met Peg Leeco.
Oh.
Okay, she was walking into Willow Rest to give Melissa a piece of her cake.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
There are not many people who are walking into Willow Rest with cake.
Yeah.
Okay, and she was like, "Look at this! I think it was a blueberry cake."
Yeah.
And you were so excited about it, and it looked beautiful. And you recognized me, and you showed me the cake. I'm going to go give this to Melissa because she needs to have it. It was a wonderful moment, and that's when I knew Peg was not only a really passionate home cook, but she had fire. You know,
Yeah.
to take a piece of that cake and take it into Willow Rest to give to Melissa. That was the extra move, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's one thing to bake a really good cake, take a picture of it, and put it on Facebook, but then to take it to Melissa at Willow Rest, that was great.
Well, I really think that it was just a gesture of welcome from me, and to say, I love good food, and I've heard that you love good food too.
Exactly. So introduce yourself for us, Peg. Tell us like where you grow up and your background and how where your interest in food comes from.
Let's see. Well, I grew up, actually, in East Gloucester on Bass Avenue. I watched Stop and Shop be built. One of my childhood goals was to be a bagger at Stop and Shop.
Was that achieved?
No, but I still think it looks like a pretty good job.
Yeah, there's spots available.
That's right. And so then we moved closer to Rocky Neck. I lived over that way for a while. Lived over by Friendly's for a while. Went to Gloucester High School, a stint at UNH in studying environmental sciences. Had a little stint as an operating room technician at Boston City Hospital, which I loved.
That must have been a wild job.
It was so fascinating.
Yeah, like
I
in
loved
the
it. It's
80s?
not nearly as bloody as you think.
Yeah.
And it's a teaching hospital, and so the surgeons were teaching me all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like being in medical school. It was just terrific. I loved it. But then I had a baby. And that meant I wasn't going to get up at 4 o'clock to bring the baby to daycare to get on the train to work at Boston City. So I kind of retired from that and had another baby. So I have 2 kids, Caroline and Andrew, and was busy raising them, was a single parent for a long time, worked at Head Start, got a scholarship through Head Start, got my associate's degree in social work, and started working in transitional housing. So
Where along the way does the passion for cooking?
now that's really interesting because, truthfully, I didn't have a big passion when I was busy raising young kids. I had a passion for trying to find foods that were inexpensive and nutritious for my kids. And I remember that the director of Head Start told me it was more important to spend that little time I had with my kids and give them a sandwich for dinner than it was to worry if I had 3 green things on the plate every night.
That's a really good tip.
Yeah, and I
That
think
is-
it's true for everybody that's working now. Take some time, go play with your kids.
Yeah, don't get all, fussed about the dinner having to be really spectacular.
Right.
Yeah. The
So
time is
then,
more important.
really literally as time went on, I digressed into cooking more, entertaining. I remarried, we built a beautiful house right on the river. It's great for entertaining, and I love to entertain. So kind of my food love developed then. Then I wanted to learn a certain recipe for scones, so I got a job at a bakery where they made the scones.
Really?
Scooped the recipe.
Some people go to a cookbook, but Peg gets a new job.
You went undercover. You went undercover, basically.
Undercover.
I'm telling you, she takes it the extra mile all the time.
So And so that is how my love for baking developed. Baking
And
from
do you want to name
scratch.
that bakery where you were working?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. But I worked at several others, and through the years, I worked a lot of restaurants. So my cooking and baking skills kind of came with age and work. The baking thing for me has come later in life, and I love it. I just love it.
So there was no grandmother or mother in that kitchen when you were growing up on Bass Avenue who was making something interesting?
Honestly, both my grandmoms passed away. I mean, one held me and died the next day after I was born. So I didn't have any Grammies or nannies.
Yeah.
But I had family that loved food. My mother, I don't know that she loved food, but she made great food. I had the influence of being married to a Sicilian guy, so that influence came in for quite a while. And I was raised around a lot of Swedes on Cape Ann. And so I loved the Swedish and Nordic foods as well. So
Oh, interesting.
just my history,
We also know each other from Spear and Lodge in Rockport.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So that's a great, fun Nordic fraternal organization. And I asked to join so that I could learn to make nisu. And now I've been a member
There's
for,
a
I
theme
think,
here.
Hey,
like 8 or 9 years. Well, I'm hoping Barbara Lynch needs a house cleaner. Barbara, if you're listening,
That's really funny. All right.
I'm your neighbor. I could walk.
There you go. When Peg shows up at your doorstep, you have to check your refrigerator. What do I got here? What you looking for?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I like to cook, I like to bake, and I love to feed people. And I think that's a Cape Ann thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think.
I think this island mentality where, when trouble comes, we all take care of each other. And I also love that on Cape Ann, you can just call your friends and say, come as you are, as I did the other night. My friend just gave me 2 bushels of steamers. So I actually parceled out steamers to 8 different people.
I have a friend who showed up at my house with steamers over the weekend. They were incredible, and they were from your body of water, I think.
Yeah.
They were really,
So
really
good.
Yeah.
They clam in my front yard, actually.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right off my float.
That might have been where they came from.
My grandkids love that.
Yeah, it's interesting though because we had when my mom was on talking Madiga steaks, she said that echoed the same sentiments. That basically she just loves providing and cooking for everybody and having people over and sharing that experience.
Yeah,
with
and
folks.
it doesn't have to be fancy. If it's your friends, just give them a holler.
Yeah.
Hi, I made a big casserole. Come on over.
Well, and I think part of that is, your mother's half Sicilian,
Yep.
and you have the Sicilian people in your lives. I think that's a big part of that influence.
Well, our
That-
whole lives are just spent in the kitchen. That's
Right.
just where everyone's together,
That's
and
exactly
that's
right.
where you go. That's
Yeah.
the hub.
Exactly right. And I think that, I have Canadian roots. Both sides of my family are from Cape Breton. And I can tell you that when you go to Cape Breton and somebody invites you in for tea, you must not say no. Because it is really an invitation to become a friend.
Huh.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really their most generous offer is,
Do
come
they
in
serve?
for a cuppa?
Do they serve scones with that tea?
They serve bannock.
Oh, right.
What is
You know
that?
what bannock is?
I have seen the word.
It looks like a baking powder cake / biscuit.
I was going to say like a biscuit. It's a
Yeah.
round, and they
Yeah.
slice it in wedges.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
really delicious.
Currants in there, raisins.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I've had it plain mostly.
Huh.
Tea and bannock.
Tea and bannock.
Come in for tea and bannock.
Well, we don't have that here in Cape Ann. Tea
We
and
could.
bannock. Yeah. I think we've got like a cup of coffee and in Rockport,
A piece of nisu.
I was going to say a piece of nisu, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to this gorgeous bowl of pasta that you have brought today. Tell us the story here, Peg.
I had seen that folks were making this dish. I'd seen it, I think, in neighborhoods, heard about it, seen it on maybe in a cookbook.
Like when? 2 years ago? 10 years ago?
No, this was when my kids were in high school, and my baby is 39 this year. So it was quite a while ago. But what I really loved about it was that I switched it up. because it's made traditionally with broccoli rabe, which is a bitter green from the broccoli family.
So let's back up and introduce the dish. Let's
Yeah.
give it a name.
Okay, this is my orecchiette with broccoli, sausage, and Parmesan. It's a 4-ingredient dish, which makes it really great for families, and it's not expensive. That was the other thing for me, we had college debt for my daughter and
Yep.
other things and concerns, and so we were really trying to be careful.
And you're a single mom.
Well, I had remarried,
Oh, okay.
but David was working at the Times. That's not a big paycheck, folks, though he loved it, and so this was a recipe that I developed for my kids. My son loves it. It's his favorite dish. Kids love it. And you can get kids to eat broccoli in this dish.
So the original recipe has broccoli rabe in it.
Right.
Do you want to talk about broccoli rabe and why some people love it and some people do not love it?
Bitter. It's bitter, folks. So it's like bitter greens, like dandelion, or even maybe not peppery like arugula, but it has a distinct flavor. And it was a distinct flavor that you either love or do not love. And I knew my kids would not love it.
Most kids don't love that
Right.
taste, yeah.
And I always had the goal, well, right from when they were babies, I made their baby food and used family food in the blender and gave it to them. And so I just really, it was another way to get a green and a protein into a dish that you can put together in 35 minutes and serve to your family.
So you had heard about people making this dish like in the
Right.
community.
Right.
I did a little Googling and realized it is actually technically from Puglia, which is part of Sicily.
Yeah.
That would be the heel and the Achilles part of Sicily.
Exactly, right. So it does actually have Sicilian roots, and I suspect it came here into the Gloucester community through from Sicily.
Right.
So did it have a name? Were people
Not
Like
that
a Gloucester
I ever
name?
knew.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever did. I think it kind of was, Orecchiette Karab.
Yeah.
You know.
Did your mom make it, Corey?
Not often, no. It was always different pasta dishes. But she made her own pasta too. Do you
right.
do that would you ever do your own pasta?
I do make my own pasta
Yeah.
sometimes with my son. We enjoy doing that together. But, when you want to put dinner on the table in less than an hour, these are also called Pope's hats, these little pasta. You can see them right there in the little fish dish.
And
Right.
I thought orecchiette means little ears too.
It can.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. I
Yep.
think literally in Italian.
Right.
So it's a dish that when you revisit it and
Yeah.
take away the broccoli rabe and add regular broccoli,
Yep.
a family can have that on the table in how many minutes?
Under 40.
Pretty good. And how much do you think it would cost to feed a family of 4?
This is why I brought in the 2 different types of orecchiette you see in that little dish.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
So on one side is a smoother one. That's the pastine.
My side, it looks like.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right?
This side,
towards
yeah.
Heather. That's pastine. I grabbed that at Market Basket. On the other side,
Probably
is this-
$1.99 for that box.
Yeah, it's not much. On the other side is a beautiful Italian-made orecchiette that is ridged and a little bit thicker. And I'd like to thank Virgilio's for donating that.
Oh, beautiful.
Did
Yeah.
they?
Thank you,
That's so
Virgilio.
nice.
Yes, I also want to thank Sclafani's for the loaf of bread I forgot and left
so
in the
good.
car. Sorry,
What?
Sclafani's.
You left it in the car?
Right.
Oh, no.
All right, we'll go get it
Corey will
before
be
she
right
leaves.
back.
Becky, run out to the car, please.
Yeah, please get the bread.
And I'd like to thank Market Basket for donating the cheese.
Oh, awesome.
That is
so
so
that's cool.
nice.
Yeah,
We
you know,
thank
just-
them too.
Yeah.
Just trotting around.
Talk
saying-
about community, right?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I did that intentionally because I really wanted to promote our 2 wonderful Italian groceria stores that are wonderful bakeries and also carry great Italian groceries.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think
Virgilio's and Sclafani's.
Oh, yeah.
Virgilio's and Sclafani's, right on even keel for me.
Yeah,
One is not better than the other. I love them both.
I agree.
They're institutions that we should promote and, shop at.
Absolutely. What's
Absolutely.
also great about the families as well is they're complementary of each other as well and often work hand in hand too.
Yeah, right.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
isn't that
Yeah,
nice?
I mean, it really,
Yeah. They
Yeah.
don't see each other as competition.
No.
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 And if Trupiano's was still around, I
Right.
would have gotten the sausage from
Yeah.
Trupiano's,
I
you
know. I
But the
know.
sausage here is just the simple, plain market basket sweet Italian sausage. You don't have to get the fennel. Don't get anything fancy. You just brown it in a big fry pan.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, you've got your water on for your pasta. You chop up your broccoli really fine into little crowns. You can peel the stalk and chop up the stalk. Don't waste it.
Mm-hmm.
Set that aside while your sausages. I take the sausage meat out of the sausage casing and break it up with a wooden spoon and brown it up. I browned it a little extra today just for the camera, but make sure it's no pink is left because it doesn't cook a second time really. So
And we'll post the recipe, but tell us here, how much sausage do you use?
I used that was just under a pound and a pound bag of the Orecchiette, and I measured the Parmesan. I grated about 1.25 cups of that, and there were 3 cups of the broccoli florets. So it's not an expensive dinner.
And this is going to feed more than 4.
I used 1 crown of broccoli, the package of pasta, the sausage. The Parmesan cheese is probably the most expensive. I priced it at Market Basket the other day. It was 2 for $5 for the domestic Belgioso, and $4 for the bag of ground Parmesan.
So it's probably a better deal to get the unground, but
Yeah, just look because, the prices vary.
Right.
I just say, please don't use that Kraft in the green can.
yeah, right. No, go for
It's Cape Ann. Use the real thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And if your kids, you can do it with just oil and salt and pepper if your kids are, you don't want to use cheese.
Yeah, or you could add the cheese on
At
top.
on the
Yeah,
table,
exactly,
at the
right.
table.
Yeah.
But, and the other thing I do that I learned from Lydia Battistelli, the great TV cook and chef, is that you scoop out a little of the pasta water with a mug and set it aside. And when you combine everything in the pan with the sausage, you put in a little bit of the water and cook it on high for just a couple of minutes and melds all the flavors to the pasta.
That's a really important part that I think
And
a lot of people know about, but for anyone who doesn't know about it, it becomes an entirely different dish.
Really?
Yeah.
When you toss with that little bit of extra water that has some starch in it, it turns everything into a sauce.
yeah, it
Like,
creates a clinging sauce.
right. Before then, it's just the separate elements on the pasta. But when you toss it for really 5 minutes, it becomes
Yeah.
something incredibly different. And I can see that you have that. I can see the starchiness on those pastas.
Yeah, I think it just helps develop, like you said, a light sauce. It's not a rich sauce. It's
No.
just the sauce.
It's the flavors meld on top of the
And
pasta.
I probably put almost the whole cup of Parmesan in at the very end. I shut the heat off, toss that all in. And then before I serve, I just a little olive oil on the top and a little sprinkle of Parmesan. And there's supper.
And you're
And
only
it's
using
not dinner, it's supper.
right. You're only using the florets, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that's not true. You can use the whole stock.
Okay.
You just have to peel it and chunk it up into
Yeah.
small pieces.
So it cooks at the
It's
same.
not tough.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's nutrition, and you just paid for it. If you have it on your stock, use it.
So we're going to taste this, but I want to have a short conversation with you, Peg, about your shirt.
Oh, my shirt.
Yep.
Yes.
And we also.
Heather asked me to wear my shirt, folks.
I did. And Peg is self-described as a radical feminist.
Yep.
And she and I have sort of intersected also in that world. And you're so active in all kinds of civic ways, I should say. But I think it's really interesting for you and other women and men probably who are living in that place where feminism intersects with domesticity.
Exactly.
So basically, being someone who loves the domestic arts, but you don't see it as a non-progressive place.
Exactly. My life is divergent in that way, but I also feel it converges. So I love needlepoint. I love stitching. I love those kinds of creative arts. Love feeding family.
You have a great apron
love
collection.
Making food. I have a great apron collection. Love baking. And it just really has never been a conflict in my own life to be able to pursue different goals. I don't see feminism or the radical notion that women are people or the fight for equal rights or body autonomy as any different than the rest of my domestic life.
And your domestic life doesn't have to be negated at all.
No, exactly
with
not.
that, with
Oh,
these
no.
progressive views.
Oh, no. I'm exactly as proud of being a feminist and fighting as a women's advocate for women's health and women's rights and equal rights as I am about my baking skills.
Right.
To me,
right.
they're just a piece of me.
Yeah, and we all have...
It's not pie, folks. If you give me equal rights, you don't take rights away from Corey to do that.
Right.
Right.
It's not pie.
Right.
It's just equal rights.
I never understood if I have a position open for, say, a graphic designer, and it pays $50,000 a year, and I have a man and a woman apply for the job, and the woman earns the job, and now
Right.
suddenly she's just making $44,000 a year and not the 50. Like I just don't understand the mentality behind like why you wouldn't want to offer equal pay for the job at hand. I just don't understand it.
I know. It
Well,
is...
it's unfortunate, but for historically, women have accepted lower pay to get the position.
And I want to...
At first, that was a big fight. Just to get the position was a fight.
Right. I want to refer back to, 20 years ago when Hillary Rodham Clinton was First Lady, and someone asked her about the work she'd be doing, and she said, well, I'm not going to sit around and bake cookies. And do you remember that?
Yes.
And it was, shoving the people who do bake cookies in a corner.
Right.
Yeah.
And and as well, you are those people, and that's so unimportant. And I think that what we can say is it is really important to find a way to feed our families and feed them relatively well and to take care of our homes in a way so that there is a certain amount of civility in them so kids can get up in the morning and go to school and be fed and have a sense of, so we can all get our work done, basically, is why it's important to have a healthy home.
Well, I think it's so important. Researchers have proved time and time again that sitting down to supper or dinner together as a family and conversing, that is one way that you help your children to learn vocabulary, to learn speech patterns, to learn about culture, to learn about history, to learn about the day-to-day working of the world.
Civility.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
civility.
Right.
Exactly. So just as an aside, for Mother's Day, my granddaughter gave me the female symbol cookie cutter.
Oh, there you go.
So Hillary, darling, you can do both.
There you go, right?
But that could be any number of symbols, though, these days, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Gender
absolutely
neutral.
True.
Yeah,
Yep. So, it's they're both pursuits I find invaluable to my own self-worth and to better the world. It's not just about me. I'm settled. I'm happy. I'm not going to be having a baby shortly. But boy, a lot of other people are.
Yeah.
And, we need to work for our kids and our grandkids to have an equitable and fair and discrimination-free society where we're just people.
Right.
Let's just care for one another.
I think that even more, and we don't have to go too deeply into this, but I'm going to say this because I feel so strongly about it. Childcare should be a fundamental right. I feel like it's almost more important than, although equal pay is certainly critical, but to have reasonable childcare for families is because that's what really keeps women from moving forward. Because somebody, inevitably, it's the mother, has to manage those kids
Sacrifice.
exactly, or take a lesser job, a part-time job because they can't afford childcare.
Well, an interesting fact that many people may not realize is that when you're receiving benefits as a single mom, the more you make, the less you receive.
Right.
So that seems right, doesn't it? Until you look at it and realize that woman is never going to get out of poverty.
Exactly.
Ever.
Yeah, that's just it, right?
So, it should be, it's simple, people.
I know.
If you take care of the children and the families, you're taking care of your future.
That is it. And if we feed them well.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have a recipe to the future right here.
That's right.
Right?
Let me be your child, Peg.
Your mama might have a fight about that.
So we don't have to always get into politics when we have a conversation, but can we come visit your home and see you doing some more local cooking soon?
Yes, I really would love that. We've talked about maybe me doing some baking and maybe a 1-bowl cake would be in our future.
Perfect.
Cool.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what is so interesting about home cooks, right? That they have their feet on the ground. They understand when a recipe is really good and how it can fit into a busy lifestyle or
a budget or whatever.
Exactly.
Or what may have, yeah.
That's exactly right. And my one worry about coming on was that my hands are a wreck because I've been working in the garden and on the boat and on my deck chairs, so they're in my lap.
Well, so then, Heather, do you want to serve out the Orecchiette?
Sure, I can
And then,
do that.
Peg, while Heather's doing that, can you just explain what do you love about baking?
I love two things about baking. One is it's precise. It's chemistry based. And I'm terrible at chemistry, but I understand the chemistry of baking. And the other thing I think I really love about that is eating what I make.
Right, yeah.
I really, I'm lucky. I walk every day like an hour and a half, and I have good thin jeans. But again, it's about baking and feeding. When my son Andrew was married 3 years ago, he asked me to make all the desserts and the wedding cakes. So I had blueberry cakes and lemon pound cakes in freezers all over Cape Ann. And it was great. I made all the desserts and I made the wedding cake.
Cool. So what is it about, why the chemistry? Why does that interest you so much?
I don't know that it's the chemistry so much as the process. I enjoy the process. It's comforting. For me, it's comforting to push on the dough for nisu. It's comforting to beat a frosting and spread it and see, is it going to look great or is it going to look kind of messy or,
Well, it's kind of a combination of magic and craft, right? I mean, you have the doing things with your hands so intensely.
Right.
And then the chemistry of it coming together, like frosting. Frosting's intense.
Of course, we all love that British baking show, don't we? My granddaughter watches it. And when I go out to Saratoga to see her, she says, Nana, Papa taped a show. Let's go watch it. So, that's another way that I'm interacting with my grandkids. They love to bake with me, and I love to bake with them.
It's great.
Yeah.
I'm hungry, Heather.
Okay, I'm super rude.
I think you should give Corey some.
Well, I'm in.
Well, I brought
there
Corey
you
some,
go.
but we didn't bring you any.
Honey,
So
I've eaten it 100 times.
I
You're
can't
eating this
believe
on the drive over?
I only brought 2 bowls.
It's fine.
Okay.
We can get
All
more.
right. Well, you can take that home, right?
I will.
Okay. So here we
David,
go.
my husband, is counting on that.
And I have to say that I'm pretty picky about pasta because I that tossing thing I really feel strongly about, and a lot of people don't do it. And I can tell just by the sheen that it looks just as it should look.
Oh, thanks.
So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, sometimes
I love
it's
the sauce.
just the littlest touch of something that makes the difference.
Is it cavatelli pasta? Is that the
No.
type of pasta?
No. Here it is.
Casa
See right on the
Nonna?
label?
The brand, you mean? It's Orecchiette is
Right.
the shape, Corey.
Cavatelli is a different shape.
Is that more tubular?
Yes.
I gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
I think literally.
Yes, Mr. Kookaroo.
we need my
Kukuru.
Kookaroo.
Okay, so I'm going to put a shout out here to my best friend in the world, Stefania Vitali, who lives on Lake Como in Italy, and she listened to our first show on Mudiga steaks, and she had some ideas about where the word Mudiga comes from. But I'm going to hope that she will send me a message very soon that we're saying it right, Orecchiette.
I'm never quite sure which,
I
so I
know.
would love to hear the expert.
And also, does it, Stefania, mean little ears? Because I
Right.
think that's what I understood. It literally means little ears,
Yeah.
which is what it looks like. So, but Pope's caps too,
Right,
I think.
right.
But
This is great.
It's
It's light.
delicious.
I love the sausage too.
Yeah.
and I think the broccoli works really well.
Well-
I was worried it might get a little watery because the broccoli rabe is just sturdier,
Right.
but I think this works great.
Well, the trick to that for me is the package said 13 to 15 minutes to cook the pasta. So I put the pasta in a lot of water and bring it to a rapid boil and stir it vigorously for probably a minute and a half or 2 minutes because these caps, they can tend to stick a little bit. But I put in so much water because I don't cook the broccoli separate. I time the pasta for 13 minutes, and then I dump in that broccoli. Jack it really...
In with the pasta.
Yep.
Oh, I love that tip.
Yep.
Yeah. So cook the vegetable with the pasta.
Yeah, just pop it in.
Right.
There's florets. You don't want to overcook them, so
Right.
that's just that last... I bring it back up to a boil, 1 minute, and...
So 1
Into
minute
the
before the
strainer.
pasta is done, you add the broccoli. Is that what you mean?
Well, it said 13 to 16 minutes, so I
Okay.
chose 13 minutes.
Okay, to
and
add
then
the broccoli.
it takes another minute or two for the water to come back up to a boil, and then 1 more minute of really cooking, and then
Right.
right into
awesome.
the colander.
Right.
So
And that pastine Orecchiette might cook at a
I think it might cook
Less time.
faster.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Just look on the label,
right.
and al dente is better for this dish because you're going to kind of meld it all together in the sausage pan in the big flat pan, and
Right.
it heats more then.
Right. I recently heard that a new trend in cooking pasta is to undercook it considerably, like by 2 to 3 minutes, and finish it in the pan, add even more of that water, and actually finish cooking the pasta in the pan with the sauce and maybe a cup of the water.
Really?
I do it with red sauce a lot, like that.
Finish it in the red sauce?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great way to do it.
Yeah. I have to give a shout out to Lydia Battistelli. I think she's
Bastinich?
Bastinich.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Bastinich,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, Lydia. I've given you an incorrect name. Anyway, I love her cookbooks and I love her show. And one of the reasons I really like her is because she really spells things out in her cookbook. She describes what a simmer is, what a light boil is, what a rolling boil is. So she really assumes that you know nothing.
Which is a really good position
It's
to
a
start
really
from.
good
Yeah.
place to start from
Yeah.
for people who may not know much,
Right, right,
and so the little tips: scoop some pasta water,
right.
pop it in, cook it for a couple more minutes, so that sauce is really embedded into the pasta.
Right.
And I thought that was just a fantastic tip.
Yeah. Do you have your eyes on any other recipes or something you'd like to try to tackle or experiment with?
Cooking or baking?
Either or.
Well, I did make an incredibly fabulous cake for Easter from the British Baking Show Masterclass, which I think is called a rosacea cake. And the description of it by Mary on British Baking Show said it was a Christmas cake. And, of course, oranges at Christmas are a tradition all over the world. You get an orange in your stocking. They were, they were cherished 50 years ago. Hey, you got
Oh,
an
right.
orange in
Yeah,
the middle
exactly.
of winter. That was a great thing. So I thought, well, why not do it for Easter? And so I made this beautiful genoise, and then you candy these thin orange slices. And then you line a bowl with saran wrap, and you put this decorative design of the orange slices, and then you put the genoise, and you make a patisserie cream and a whipped cream and blend that together. And you spread that up along, and then you put another layer of the cake and chopped up orange rind. And you've got the syrup, and a little Grand Marnier in there.
Wow. Well,
you
invert it?
It's in this bowl, so you're putting it in. And then when you're done, you put a plate on top, push for a couple of minutes, and then you sit it right side up with the plate on it overnight in the fridge, and then you plop it onto your platter and peel off the saran wrap.
Huh.
And I had 13 for dinner on Easter, and the only thing I really cared about is how the cake looked.
I would have cared about that cake. That sounds intense.
I have to say, I was quite impressed with my own self.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed with this Orecchiette.
All right,
This
we
is
might
awesome.
It
Also,
really
it
is
tasted.
awesome.
And we're
It
not
was
gonna have to-
grand. Let me
yeah.
tell you, that cake was grand.
I bet. All right,
Yeah.
so we might have to have the Cape Ann Bake Off.
That would be so fun.
Wouldn't that be fun?
I think that would be a
Home
blast.
cooks. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
it would be totally a blast.
Well, at least we come to your house and you bake
Yes.
something for us.
Yes,
And-
I will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
we'll figure that out once we get off. So thanks so much for spending time with us, Peg.
It's been a blast.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
We'll do this again
Thanks,
sometime
Heather.
soon.
Well,
Thanks for
thank
asking
you.
me.
What are you making for dinner tonight? That's what I want to know.
I already
Well, you're gonna
made
have
it.
that.
I already
Right?
made it, Heather.
That's true.
Yeah, and we'll share Peg's recipe
Exactly.
for the
We'll post
Orecchiette
that.
as well.
Yes.
So,
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
thank you, Peg.